In this lecture, we'll change our Cinemachine camera to smoothly move with our player. At the moment, I don't really think our camera moves at all, does it? Nope, up or back, left and right, everything is just nice and in place. Now, I'm sure you could do something like child your camera directly to the player, but of course that would just look very rigid. Now, if we open up our cameras, we actually have our Cinemachine camera, and this comes with some really cool procedural components for both position and rotation to really smoothly move our camera in a way that is really pleasing to the eye. Now, before I forget, now that I've actually walked away from my computer and walked back, everything is just a little bit bright for my liking. Sometimes you just kind of have to step away from the computer for a little bit before you move on. I'm going to actually change my intensity back down to kind of where it was before. So 2.7 back down to let's just do an even 2. I think something around there looks nice. Yeah, not so quite glaring in my eyes. With that out of the way, let's actually go toggle over to our Cinemachine camera and start modifying some of these properties. Not that it's really too important, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and call it Cinemachine space camera, just to fit with the consistency of everything else in our hierarchy. Inside of this Cinemachine camera component, we actually have a tracking target field. Well, that makes sense. We can go ahead and just drag in our player model. But with only this tracking target field populated and not changing any of these other values, then we're not really actually going to see a difference in our game. We can scroll down just a little bit more to these two procedural components. Well, let's actually start with the position control. In this dropdown, you've got a bunch of different options for different ways that we can actually use the Cinemachine camera. Things like a third-person follow camera straight out of the box. Things like a basic follow camera, once we actually toggle on follow and this tracking target, you can actually move to the left and to the right, and you can actually now see it tracking our target, albeit from a pretty funky angle by default. Well, the one that we'd actually like to use for this project is referred to as the Position Composer. This is going to attach the Cinemachine Position Composer as another component down below, and it gives us some nice luxuries right out of the box. So let's first get this kind of modified back to roughly where we had it. Let's zoom all the way back into our king at a camera distance of, let's call it about 4 for now. And then we want to change this target tracking, which is actually looking at our king, but it's looking directly at the pivot of our king, which is just at the bottom. So we just need some sort of target offset. So on the Y value, we can actually just drag this up roughly to where we had it before. I think around the neck would look nice. So just smack dab right here in the middle, looking at the backside of our neck. Now these two blue lines in our game view will only actually be there when we're clicked on our Cinemachine camera. If you were to click away, we actually lose those on-screen gizmos. I think those are what's referred to as, right here, the game view guides. If you didn't want them on for whatever reason, even when you were clicked onto your Cinemachine camera, you could actually just disable these guides entirely. But let's go ahead and keep that as interactive. But let's just go ahead and play this just to see what it looks like. Yeah, there we go. We're actually moving directly from the left and to the right. And you know what? That's already looking pretty good. We're just immediately following our player with a little bit of damping, meaning it's not actually just immediately going to where the king is. We've just got a little bit of a delay. And you know what? That already looks quite nice. But the real magic happens when you toggle on this dead zone value below your composition. Once you have that clicked on, you now actually have the dead zone for both the X and the Y values. As long as this little yellow dot here where the Cinemachine camera is looking is in between these two values, well, the camera won't actually start to move. So we probably want our dead zone for our X value probably somewhere around there. And our Y zone we can probably keep really small because we don't actually have a lot of Z movement up and down. Let's actually try something like this and see what it looks like. We can actually move all the way to the left, and yeah, if we're moving in between this dead zone, then our camera doesn't actually move at all. But the second we get out of the dead zone, we can actually see the camera slowly catches up based on these damping values. If you had your damping set to something way higher, say something around 15, you could move your king all the way to the left out of the dead zone, and you can just see it barely, slowly moving to catch up over time. So let's just actually keep that damping value at 1, I think looks pretty good for me. You can also toggle rotation control to rotation composer and actually achieve somewhat of the same look. And just like position, we just want to actually give our value some offset, but we want to actually offset the Z value. If we actually just scroll this back down, nope, not in the negative value. Now we're actually just looking the king straight dead in the eye. This might be cool if we were trying to throw a banana or a green shell at Bowser and Donkey Kong behind us. But for the sake of our game, let's increase this back to a positive value and kind of get it situated roughly where we had it before. Probably somewhere around 5 to 6. I'm going to situate mine right around 5.8. And before, if you recall, we were actually getting a decent amount of rotation in the game when we would hit something, say, like a fence. And when we're actually moving to the left and right, we're now actually rotating completely. Well, I don't actually want to rotate the camera left and right, so we can actually just create one big dead zone for our left and right value. So we just want to toggle on dead zone on our rotation composer, and the size of X, we can actually just increase that all the way to the left and the right. So now with the dead zone spread all the way from the left and the right, we're not actually rotating our camera left and right at all, but I do actually ever so slightly want to just rotate my camera down based on how slow we're going, number one, and then actually just how far or close we are to the camera. So definitely nothing too much. I want it to be relatively subtle, which will introduce you to this lecture's challenge. Adjust your position and rotation composer offset and dead zone values until you get the camera feel that you're looking for. I would also even recommend that you just tinker around with some more of those drop-down values just to kind of see what else the Cinemachine camera has to offer as far as giving you some nice camera flexibility. Pause the video, give things a try, and we'll see you back here shortly. Welcome back. I think I've got both my rotation and my position composers roughly about where I want it. You might have noticed the Cinemachine rotation composer is extremely mild. If you actually keep your eye on this rotation dot here, even when I say grab an apple, for example, it's not actually moving too much from the center. So anything in regards to the rotation is actually going to be pretty mild because we don't actually have a lot of up and down movement. But I do think just that little bit of flex is nice. So if I was to actually toggle away from the Cinemachine camera in our hierarchy, we can actually just get a kind of nice look at what this looks like now. Yeah, there you go. I actually do just quite like that. Even though it's pretty subtle moving from left to right, it doesn't actually look quite as rigid and stiff as it was before. Well done on this lecture. When you're ready to move on, I'll see you on the next one.